It was available only for 2 years, probably wasn't selling very well. As it happens very often in those situations, they became this Ibanez cult classic. Hello, my name is Michał, and this channel is a journey to document every Ibanez guitar ever made. And this video is gonna be a bit weird, because when I recorded initially, I messed up sound recording, and now I don't have this guitar anymore, it's sold. But I still think it's a valuable story to tell. It's a cool guitar and has interesting successors. So I'm gonna stitch today's narrative with the footage I shot previously, and we'll just make it work. Just kind of the same way I did with my friend's RG570GF a while back. So today's hero in absentia is the Candy Apple Red RG565 from 1981. In 1987, Ibanez released two very successful guitars. One was Gem, Steve Vai's signature model, and second was kind of simplified version of this guitar, which is RG550. Those two guitars put Ibanez on the map. Especially RG550 is interesting for this story because it started the whole kind of line, the modern RG series. The name was used previously for a bit for a Roadstart series. You can check a bit about it in one of the first videos I did about it. But this is the start of the story of one of the most successfully sold guitars in the history of the world. To follow on that success, in 1988 Ibanez introduced HSS configuration guitar RG560, and the following year they introduced HSH configuration 570, that had pickup mounted directly into the body, so no pickguard like in case of 550. So they're like experimenting with that concept, what works, which configuration work. In 1989 they introduced very interesting configuration, and one of my favorite pickup configurations, which is like humbucker in the bridge and single coil in the neck without middle pickup. And this guitar was called RG565R. This guitar also had like shark tooth inlays, reverse headstock. The headstock had a matching color to the body. Around the time Ibanez also had something called 700 series, and those basically guitars very similar to 500 series, but they have shark tooth inlays necks. So in community, 565R is commonly called 765 just because they had that neck with shark tooth inlays. It came in two colors, fire alarm red and desert yellow, and it was basically prototype. It was built in limited numbers. This was also the first serial produced Ibanez guitar with reverse headstock. You could order US customs with reverse headstock, but those are obviously very limited. In 1991, this guitar came back as a like full production model. They dropped the R. It had maple fretboard, and on top of like matching headstock color, it also had the matching dot inlays. So it was like maple fretboard with colored dot inlays. So, you know, in case of this Candy Apple Red, we have red dots. There were like three other colors. Laser blue and Candy Apple Red were like the most common. Feels like emerald green is like less common, and interestingly, the least common is black, which, you know, the matching headstock and matching dots is nothing special because it was quite common to have black dots or black headstock. And this is generally the story of 565. It was available only for 2 years, probably wasn't selling very well. As it happens very often in those situations, after many years, they became this Ibanez cult classic, just because like rarity and like, you know, people chase things that are less common, but still cool. For a long time, there was no other RG series guitars like that, and this kind of like created this like cult following and draft on the market, and the prices on them started getting pretty crazy. In 2010, Ibanez introduced this guitar, which is Indonesian limited edition, kind of like release or homage to 565. It shares a lot of features with that, like, you know, we have matching reverse headstock, matching dots on the maple fretboard. It had the Marzo pickups, humbucker in the bridge, single coil size humbucker in the neck, edge 3 tremolo, so not the best, but generally, like, you know, for Indonesian guitars, it was like really nice. This has been modded, so it doesn't have the same configuration as it came initially. It actually mimics the configuration of 765 or like 565R. So we have V2 in the bridge, S1 in the neck, and three-way switch. In 2012, Ibanez introduced RG3 It was a part of the 25th anniversary of the RG series. They also did the reissues of RG550 and the S series. And it was like very similar guitar to this one, with one difference: a different tremolo. It had Edge 02 tremolo. Otherwise, everything was the same. Both those editions came in like red and blue. There was like different naming of colors, but there was always candy apple sparkly red and one of those kind of like sparkly blue colors. It's soda blue or laser blue depending on year. But then in 2020, as a part of Genesis series, they re-released Japanese RG565, somewhat similar to original but with some like upgrades. There was Ibanez pickups, but different than in original, but still you had like humbucker and mini humbucker or like single coil size humbucker. 3-piece neck, which is a nice upgrade compared to 1-piece neck in the original. Originally came in emerald green, which is like one of the original release color, and fluorescent orange, which was a new color. And they also released a couple of years later Vampire Kiss and Laser Blue. Those are like very cool release, very popular. People loved it. I was also very happy when that announcement came up. And maybe it's a bit of blessing that I'm like reshooting this video at the beginning of 2025, because for this year they released the rosewood fretboard version, the kind of like original 565R. Again, without the HS configuration. It's now double humbucker configuration, so humbucker and single coil humbucker. And we have two colors. Desert yellow, so as in original, another one's like laser blue, so the blue color. I think original was red. Very cool guitar, rosewood fretboard, shark tooth inlays, reverse headstock. I don't like buying new guitars because I like to catch good deals on used guitars, but I'm really tempted to snag one of those. I don't know how limited they're gonna be, so that's probably gonna drive my decision, because if they're gonna be limited edition, then probably later their prices will go up, but I haven't looked into this yet. Although the HS configuration is not that common with Ibanez, there were like few models worth mentioning that had it. Produced within the same years like RG565, there was EX365, which is like Korean series of guitars, kind of like RG but have like rounded edges. Very good affordable version, although they're not very common. The 540 Sabres and Powers were available in the HS configuration, so the first kind of like S series and the Power series. Then in 2015 we had like FR series model 365, looking a bit like Telecaster with like humbucker in the bridge and the neck pickup in the metal cover, but still HS configuration. Some Joe Satriani series are in that configuration. It's mostly like humbucker and the single configuration. Sometimes the sustainer, but you could probably like adapt it if you want to. There is Xephos with like 27 frets, and just probably to fit the neck pickup they just made it this small humbucker, again rail humbucker. Again, you can like mess with it to have like HS configuration if you want to. And there's this very interesting RG 2011 SC that has like, again, I think 30 frets and this deep cut thing, so they just didn't have place for neck humbucker, so there's a bridge humbucker and middle single coil, which effectively matches HS configuration. Although they do some weird things with electronics that they kind of like simulate the sound of the neck humbucker. So there is like a switch for a neck humbucker even though the pickup is not there. Quite recently released RGA622XH. Again, guitar that has like extended amount of frets, so they needed a space to put like this neck humbucker. It's like one of my favorite RGAs. I'm not that fan of this shape, but I think this is pretty nicely done. I really like the look of these guitars. So yeah, let's talk about this guitar. RG565. RG is for RG series, Roadstar Deluxe. 5 is for 500 series, and 65 is like HSS with removed middle pickup, or generalized 65 became like a thing for HS configuration pickups in Ibanez naming. And CA stands for Candy Apple Red color. It has a Fuji and serial number from 1991. It's like started with F1 and then some other numbers. As common for RG Ibanez's at that time, it's a basswood body. It's a 3-piece basswood body. You can kind of see a glue joint under the not so thick paint. We have maple neck, which has this like crazy flaming, which is very nice and uncommon at that time. Like Ibanez didn't like pick up pieces of wood and prioritize flaming or anything. It wasn't like desirable feature back then. It was just like happened they had like this piece of wood in the stash. This lucky guitar got it. It's very nice, active flame. It's not very like tight strip, but still pretty nice. Then we have a reverse headstock with matching paint of the body, white Ibanez logo. We have tilt joint with the metal neck plate between the body and neck. Tilt because it's tilt. It's not square block like at some like lower range RGs, and this is also not this like a kind of
deeper cutaway like on Gem. It's a kind of like a nice sweet middle. Gives a decent neck access. It's not as good like as A and J later, but you know, better than the square block. We have a maple fretboard with like dots matching the color of the body. One of the features of this guitar that's really cool. We have 24 frets, standard super strut scale, so 25.5 inch or 648 millimeters. Black hardware, so I have black Goto tuners, top lock, and the mighty Edge tremolo. One of the best Ibanez tremolos. I'm more of a fan of a low pro, but the Edge, you know, it's the same quality, it's just kind of different profile. We have the HB2 and SB1 pickups. They were not super common with Ibanez at that time. They're kind of like a half blade humbucker and double blade, you know, single coil size humbucker. They were also used in the Voyager series, in like the cheaper models that didn't have EMGs. Then we have master volume, master tone, 5-way switch, so very standard for RGs. And in the back we have also like 3 cavities for the tremolo springs, for the electronics bay, and the small one for wiring the jack, because it's a barrel jack, so there would be no other way to wire it. What I find very interesting about this guitar is, because I have the Indonesian one, the body of the Japanese one feels thinner and looks thinner. I don't know, maybe it was just like, you know, different tolerances, because those were like back then made and finished by hand. The modern one were probably CNC'd. But also the lacquer is like much thinner, so like the edges are like much crispier and sharp, and this one has like much more kind of like bigger radius, because you can see there's like I don't know, like 2 millimeters of that paint on it. You know, when you like chip away this poly from Indonesian and Korean guitars, you can see there's like a lot of that paint, right? And this seems like a very nice, not very thick lacquer.
So you might wonder, why did I sell that 565, since I like this guitar and this configuration so much? Ultimately, I think this guitar was too nice for me. I don't play that much guitar. It was like in nearly collectible condition, so I'm sure it made somebody else very happy. It would feel really bad to mess with it, like, you know, to do some mods into it and so on. And I have this that does pretty much everything I want. The tremolo would need to be replaced at some point, and I have few mods in mind to do with it, and I don't feel so bad, you know, messing with Indonesian guitars like I would feel bad with like pretty rare Japanese guitar that was in very nice condition. And also, the Indonesian release had the Wizard 2 profile, which is a bit thicker and a bit rounder, and I like it a bit more for playing. Generally, for all purposes, this guitar fits me better, and I could just, you know, get some money and buy something else what I can show you on this channel in the future. So it's a win for me, win for you, maybe win for somebody who just got it into their collection. So what's the plan for this? My dream is something between 565 and 770DX, and that would be like significant changes, but it would have like rosewood fretboard with like matching inlays in the shark tooth inlays, have a HS configuration with like matching color pickups like in 7070, maybe even have that like clear pickguard like in 7070, so like, I don't know, 7065DX or something like that. That would be pretty cool build. Of course, it's not gonna be that based off Indonesian guitar, but you know, we can get pretty close to it. So as I said, with this guitar, I'm not that afraid to mess with it. I hope you enjoyed this quick look at this cult classic RG565. And if you did, there's a like button under the video. If you're interested in more Ibanez content, I have quite a lot of videos by now on different topics, mostly guitars, but also I like to dig into technicalities or like tremolos and other stuff. Thank you for watching, and see you in another episode of documenting every Ibanez guitar ever made. See ya!